Salutations, fellow artists, and greetings from the great state of Wyoming. My name is Ben Bannister, and I am thrilled to be bringing you our first ever video on songwriting on this channel. We'll be beginning today with the anatomy of a song. That is, what are the components that I believe make up a really good song, and how do you put those together? But before we get to that, I have a question for you. What is it about songwriting that gives you the most trouble? What is it that as you try to do it just makes you want to take your pen and paper and fling them against the wall? Put the answers in the comments below, and I will get to some tips with regard to those in next week's video. Without further ado though, let's begin with this week's adventure. I would like to take just a moment to define a couple of terms for those who may not be formally trained in music and familiar with what I'm going to do. First of all, I'm going to use the Roman numerals 1 through 7 to refer to chords. Now, it's not hard to know which chord I'm referring to. You just take the key you're in, like say, for example, the key were C, and each Roman numeral refers to a degree of the scale as you walk up it. For example, the 1 chord is C, 2 is D, 3rd chord is E, the 4th F, the 5th is G, the 6th chord is A, and the 7th is B. And a large Roman numeral will denote a major chord, and a small Roman numeral a minor chord. Also, we're going to be in 4/4 time. That simply means that there are 4 beats in a measure, and the quarter note, this fella, gets the count. If you want to picture in your head what 4/4 time is, just picture a march. 1, 2, 3, 4. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And you've got it down. Welcome to our first adventure in songwriting. I call it the anatomy of a song. I'm going to take my song, Would You Believe, and we're going to dissect it one piece at a time in an attempt to help you understand how to be a better songwriter. First of all, let's go over the 7 different parts of a song. First of all, you have the intro. That is, this is 4 to 8 musical measures that set the mood for the entire song. When people are done listening to this and you hit the first verse, you want them to be set up to receive the message that you are about to give them.
If you could see me carve the line and fill the sea, oh, would you believe? And if you could see me make a man fashion his features with my hand, oh, would you believe?
Then we come to the verse. Now, there are typically 2 verses in a song, and as I've said before, there are always exceptions to this, but there are typically 2 verses. The first verse, that is the one before you sing the chorus the first time, is going to be the one where you set the stage for what you're going to tell them. In other words, if it's a song about a feeling or a concept, you want to define that feeling for them in some way. If it's a story that you're telling, you want to introduce your characters and tell the first part of the story in verse 1. In verse 2, you would go on to expound upon your idea, lyrically speaking, or you would continue with the story from where you left off. Now, in verses, we typically employ what we call loops. That is, it's a series of chords that are set up to loop over and over again, typically 3-4 times. I mean, some common loops are 1-4-5, 6-4-5-1. Somebody so jokingly said with that second one, you can play every pop song ever written. I don't think that's fair because there is more to pop music than that, but that is a very common chord progression in that style. Also, just alternating between 2 chords can be a good way to do a verse. For example, the Bryan Adams song Summer of '69 alternates between 1 and 5. 1 and 5, 1 and 5. You can do it that way if you want to. But the best way to write a verse is to pick a progression and for 3 to 4 lines, just alternate that progression. Now, it is worth noting here also that that chord progression is going to be the same in both verses.
If you could see me carve a line and fill the sea, oh, would you believe? And if you could see me make a man washing his feet just with my hand. Oh, would you believe?
Now we come to the third part of a song, or what I call the pre-chorus. But what the pre-chorus is, in either case, is a musical part of the song that sets up our ears to receive something other than the verse. You see, by this point, you've repeated the same chord progression for at least 3 to 4 lines, and they've kind of settled into the message, and their minds might be starting to zone just a little bit. And what you do all of a sudden, after you play that loop for the second or third or fourth time, you're going to hit a different chord, and their ears are going to perk up, and they're going to go, ah, we're headed somewhere different, and they wake up. There are several different ways you can do a pre-chorus. We'll examine Would You Believe here in a minute. But musically, it needs to be different than the rest of the chorus. I can't emphasize that enough. And you want it to end, typically speaking, on something other than the one chord. Because you see, a one chord has a sense of finality or finish to it. So I would use 4 if you want to leave an open feel, or 5 if I want it to just really drive and feel like I'm moving into something. Now we come to what I see as the most important part of the song, the chorus. The chorus is the takeaway. It's the main idea of your song, and you typically want to keep it short. For example, if your verse is, say, 12 measures long, you want to try to keep your chorus to 8 or less. And you want, within that chorus, both musically and lyrically, to express the main idea of your song. If they don't remember the verses, if they don't remember the bridge, if they don't remember the intro or the ending, it doesn't matter if they get the chorus, because that's the main message that you are trying to communicate. Usually, it begins on some chord other than your verse does musically. For example, when we hit Would You Believe here in a minute, you'll note that the verse begins on a 6th chord. The chorus is going to begin on a 1. Why? Because we're in a different part of a song. And you want them to know that. Sometimes you might want the chorus to drive, in which case you might want to start on a 5 chord. Or if you want a questioning feeling to your chorus, start on a 4 chord. You'll find that these things tend to work very well. If you want it to be sad, you might want to start on a 6 chord. But in any case, 3 things need to be true of the chorus. It needs to be shorter than your verse, it's your takeaway, and it needs to be written in such a way that the tune will make them remember.
Would you believe that I am real? Would you believe your empty soul I can fill? Would you believe that I exist? You can see things like this.
Now we come to the optional part of the song. Well, I say optional. It's optional in some songs and not in others. For example, if you've said everything you need to say in verses 1, 2, and the chorus, all I would do is repeat the chorus a second time and then go into my ending. But sometimes you have a song where you've not communicated everything. Maybe you have a little bit more about that concept that you want to talk about here. Maybe you haven't given the ending to the story and you want to give it. Do so in the bridge. Now, a bridge is typically shorter than a verse, but longer than a chorus. Now, as I've said before, there are exceptions to everything, but typically that is the case. Also, we want to make this sort of its own part of the song, so it needs a different chord progression. I find one that works for me real well is the chord progression 4, 5, 3, 6. It's known as the Royal Road progression.
This and so much more is written in my word. You have not seen, but you have heard.
Now we come to the final part of the song, the ending. This is usually after the final chorus. Usually what you've done by this point, you've had your intro, you've sung your first verse, you've sung a chorus, you've sung your second verse, your chorus again, then you do your bridge, then a chorus once, maybe twice, and now we have what is usually a musical ending to the song. Usually what I do for this portion of the song is I play back through either the intro or I play the last line of the chorus again, and then I end on the tonic note. I end on my tonic chord, the 1 chord, because I want the song to have a sense of finality. It's over, it's finished. If you don't want it to have that, if you want to leave it kind of open, maybe end with the 4 chord. But in any case, this is what I do with the ending of the song.
Would you believe?
Thank you for allowing me to share this information with you today. I hope you find it helpful. Please let me know whether you did or didn't in the comments below. Also, don't forget to come back next Friday at 1 o'clock for another video. God bless you and have a great day.